Yes, it's finally that time. What you see here in front of you is my current spray booth for airbrush painting my model kit projects. It's also the one in all my build videos up to this point in the channel. The purpose of which is to obviously evacuate fumes and particles from my work area. Now, this isn't something you can go buy somewhere, as I made it myself from various components I picked out. It's served its purpose well these past few years, and I've completed some of my proudest projects on it. This is what I've been using ever since I moved my workshop into this small space, which is constantly undergoing changes. I designed it on paper and cut the enclosure from MDF sheet I had in my garage. It's also equipped with a cheap cabinet light and an exhaust fan I found online, which I attached to a dust collection duct that I run out of a 4-inch duct out my window. To hold my airbrush, I've been using a 3D printed airbrush holder that is just screwed on top. In addition, I also made it that it just uses a standard 10x20x1 furnace filter to catch larger paint particles from clogging up the fan while exhausting. At some point, I also covered the enclosure with some cheap wallpaper to just enhance the aesthetics of it. Janky as it seems, it definitely gets the job done. However, it's not perfect. The fan I've been using isn't exactly designed for evacuating corrosive fumes. It also isn't 100% safe for use with evacuating flammable vapors, which I use a lot, being a guy who sprays a lot of lacquer and enamel paints. The filters also get clogged very quickly, which eventually creates overspray going back into the room if I let it go too far, which is definitely not great, as I have 2 cats that like to run into my workshop when I'm not paying attention. As far as longevity goes, this booth will not stand the test of time. I knew I eventually needed to upgrade to something more robust and professional looking. Enter the Pace Enterprises airbrush spray booths for the home hobbyist. These are all steel enclosure spray booths designed for airbrushing at home. Not only do these look rugged and clean, but they're equipped with blower fans that are safe to use when evacuating more corrosive paint fumes. They are designed and made in the USA by Bob Pace. Pace currently offers 3 models of the Peacekeeper airbrush booths: the 24-inch Mini Plus, 24-inch Super Mini, and the 36-inch Deluxe respectively. Now, I've actually known about these booths for years, as I talk to people in my hobby circles that have used them personally and hear nothing but good things. I've also watched reviews of the booth from other YouTubers and knew I had to try one myself, so I finally decided to jump on board and ordered myself the 24-inch Mini Plus. Fast forward about a week and a half, the booth arrived in its glorious shipping box at my doorstep.
It's here.
By the way, folks, just a quick disclaimer. I'm not affiliated or sponsored by Pace Enterprises in any way, just a regular customer like everyone else who was in dire need of a new airbrush booth. So keep in mind, these are just my honest opinions. As excited I was to open the box and get my new booth set up, I knew that I had to clear my work area of the old booth first. It's easy to just say screw it and throw everything away, but there are a few components of my old booth I wanted to salvage. I took some time to dismantle it properly. First, the airbrush holder. I'll convert this into a magnetized and repositionable stand. Since the new booth is all steel, magnets can be used in intuitive ways. As far as the old light bar goes, I'll just give these a good cleaning and store them as they still function, and I may use them still. I was originally going to salvage the old ventilation fan, but it was way too clogged up.
Ooh. Yeah, that's not good.
I decided that it's probably better to toss it in the bin. The MDF enclosures just getting destroyed and tossed in the trash. Goodbye, old friend. With all that out of the way, it's time to set up the Pace spray booth. First of all, this box is huge. Everything seems to be packed quite well. In the box, you get the booth itself with a pre-installed filter. These just seem to be your standard 12x24x1 furnace filters, which you can buy pretty much anywhere. The airflow direction seems to be facing the wrong way, so let's flip that real quick. You also get the Dayton blower unit, which is already outfitted with a power cord and toggle switch to turn it on and off. You also get a couple info sheets with a layout of the spray booth and how to attach the blower unit on top of the booth. You also need to have some 4-inch ducting and a safe method of running this outside to vent the fumes. This is not included, however, but I didn't mind. Now, installation was pretty simple. Remove the 2 Phillips screws from the top and watch out for sharp edges. Then, following the info sheet, orient the blower the correct direction, making sure the fit is correct and that the back lip at the base of the blower slips into place.
The foam strips right there.
And then reinstall the screws through the pre-drilled holes. With that done, you can attach the ducting using hose clamps. I already knew it was 4 inches from looking at the website, so I bought some new ducting and hose clamps, which I attached to an outlet that slips into my window. I constructed my own insert using XPS foam and a detachable dryer vent fitting with a little mesh screen taped on the outside to keep any bugs out. And that should be good enough. I just got all this at my local hardware store. So anyways, carefully slip the ducting over the opening of the blower and where you're going to be venting it, and then secure them on both ends by tightening the hose clamps. My clamps just use Phillips, so I just used a low torque setting on my drill with a Phillips bit and made sure they were secure, taking care not to over tighten the clamps as that can cause damage. That pretty much covers the ventilation part, but I still needed to figure out a solution for lighting up the booth. Originally, I bought a magnetic LED light strip to just snap to the top of the inside, but then I realized there was no way to point the light away from my face and orient it more towards the inside. The lighting from this was sufficient, but not exactly ideal or comfortable. To fix this, I ended up reusing my old LED cabinet light bar from my old booth. To get it to attach to the booth, I simply superglued 3 neodymium magnets to the lip of one of the slim ends, which ended up working perfectly. While not the most elegant looking solution, the curvature and size of the light blocks the other LED light bar from pointing at my face, and also illuminates the rest of the inside in a much more ideal way. This way, I can see everything cleanly while I'm doing my spraying, and having all the lights magnetized means I can move them out of the way when I need to change the filter or do some cleaning. Next order of business was magnetizing my old 3D printed airbrush holder. To do this mod, I simply widened the existing screw holes to fit some disc magnets I had on hand and then fixed them in place with super glue and accelerator. I did some quick cleanup and then spray painted the holder outside flat black. Having the airbrush holder magnetized means that I can move it around the booth surface freely and on the fly. This is especially useful for when I'm loading or switching colors or need to do some cleaning. Finally, to top off the extra accessories, I also got this magnetic parts dish to hold airbrush parts when I'm breaking down the tool for cleaning, and a magnetic glove box holder because why not? Magnets are awesome. I didn't need to do any drilling on the booth, and everything is basically modular and can be repositioned on the fly. In the future, I'll probably look into other magnetic things like a magnetic pen cup that I can stick on the side for, like Q-tips, pipettes, paint stirrers. I think you get the idea. But for now, I'm happy with this loadout. With the booth kitted out, I think it's high time we check the performance, the most important part. For this, I'll be using my generic no-name compressor with a tank and my GSI Krios PS266 airbrush. Let's start with some sound tests, and just test the general noise levels the booth gives off in a typical spraying session in my small workshop. My workshop has a baseline volume of about 45 to 50 decibels, which is comparable to a quiet office with typical ambient noises. For reference, typical human conversation is around 65 decibels. Let's kick on the compressor. You can see here that it's averaging just below 80 decibels, which isn't too bad since it only runs when my tank needs to refill with air and isn't running constantly. But what about the booth's blower fan? Looks like it's about the same, averaging around 80 decibels. Still not too shabby. Okay, what about both the booth, the compressor, and the airbrush spraying all at once? Not much of a change. Even with all 3 components running, we're averaging around just above 80 decibels. In a real-world setting, this is equivalent to a noisy restaurant. Sitting here right next to it, I'm not too bothered by the noise, but I can see how some folks may find this to start to get grating in very long sessions of spraying. Typically, exposure to 80 decibels is within a safe range, but probably not for super prolonged periods of time. So use this information at your discretion. For what I do, I feel like this is fine. With the sound test out of the way, how well does this actually evacuate fumes? Let's jump straight to spraying some lacquer.
We're blessing the booth. First test. Are you ready?
I sprayed a couple spoons first using my airbrush with Mr. Surfacer 1500 Black. I sprayed directly onto the spoons towards the filters to catch any overspray, despite my tendency to want to spray in a downward fashion. I wore a respirator and then removed it when I finished spraying to note the smell. Overall, I got nothing. No noticeable lacquer fumes unless I put the spoon right up to my nose and take a whiff.
Now I smell it.
FYI, don't do this. They stank and it's not good for you. Anyways, passes the lacquer airbrush test, which is awesome. But what about spray can paint?
Okay, so the next thing we're going to test is spray cans. Normally I wouldn't do this indoors, even with this kind of airbrush booth. But for testing sake, I still want to try it. So let's give it a shot.
Normally, I wouldn't do this inside. Even with a robust airbrush booth, spray cans just have so much propellant mixed in to eject paint out of the can that it causes so much overspray and just gets everywhere. A bit too corrosive and messy for indoor use. But for the purpose of this video and test purposes, I decided to try one spoon. Same process. Wearing some gloves and a respirator, I sprayed directly onto the spoon towards the filter. Once the spoon was covered, I stopped.
Holy that covers fast.
I gave it a couple seconds and then removed my respirator to note the smell in the room.
Okay. Getting like tiny bit, but now it's gone. I can't smell anything now. A tiny bit, but now it's gone. I'm probably just smelling this.
I didn't really get any noticeable bad odors or smell unless I
Yeah.
placed the spoon right next to my face. Again, don't do this. The booth did a pretty decent job of evacuating the fumes. However,
Look at that filter.
one thing to note is how fast the filters are getting clogged when using a spray can such as this. Another reason I wouldn't use spray cans indoors. It just releases way too much overspray. A session or two and you'll be replacing filters like crazy. Not to mention having to mop up the inside of the booth with alcohol or lacquer thinner. It definitely works, just would not recommend using spray cans. With all that in mind, my verdict is that the booth evacuates fumes well. It does exactly what it's intended to do. For airbrushing at home, this is leaps and bounds better than those cheap plastic spray booths you get on Amazon, which, mind you, just use a computer fan. It's also much safer and lighter than my old homemade MDF spray booth. This not only fits my space better, but has a blower unit that safely evacuates fumes in a much more efficient way. I also like the all-steel construction, allowing me to make use of the magnetic accessories. It's also easier to clean up if I spill any paint. The filters are also easily replaceable as they're a standard size, which you can buy anywhere they sell furnace filters. I gotta say, Pace has some excellent customer service and shipping was fast and the booth itself was well packed, which I highly appreciate. If you airbrush lacquers, enamels, or any solvent-based paints like me, consider this as one of your options. I've been needing a new booth for a while. Honestly, it was such a long time coming, and I'm glad I made this investment in my hobby, as this exceeded my expectations. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the Pace Enterprises Peacekeeper 24-inch Mini Plus airbrush booth. If you're interested in purchasing this airbrush booth or any of the Pace Enterprises products, I'll leave a link to the website in the video description below. This is not an affiliate link, just a link to the Pace website and products. If you found this video helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more reviews of hobby-related tools and supplies. And as always, remember to stay safe, be nice to each other, build stuff, paint stuff. See you in the next video.